Welcome, everyone. This is Deborah Tavares with Stop the Crime today on the Pure Momentum Network. And we welcome you today for this broadcast, along with Al Whitney, my co-host today, that hosts the website, the Anti-Corruption Society, the Anti-Corruption Society. We're going to be covering the events, many of the events that occurred back in 1933 that were, of course, not taught to many of us in school. In fact, I don't know of very many people that know about the events of 1933. And I'm just going to put this out right now, and we're going to be focusing on the bankruptcy predominantly. However, what is most important to understand is that as long as the United States of America remains under a yearly extended national state of emergency, which it has been in since 1933, according to Senate Report 93549. And once the emergency has been declared, which it is every single year, the common law is abolished, the Constitution is abolished, and we fall under the absolute will of the corporate government construct. And public policy, which is corporate statutory rules, is the system that we are now under. And again, as long as this annual state of emergency exists, what we will find is that the executive branch will be making all the statutory rules and laws via executive order. And I know that many people realize the vast amount of executive orders that have been coming out of the White House for many presidents, and wondering why on earth that can continue to happen and why on earth we cannot say, wait a minute, this is illegal. Of course, it's unlawful. But under the annually extended national state of emergency, it is lawful. And that is why we're not getting any pushback from any thought or idea of representation, which of course we don't have. We have a de facto government. It's mega corporations and bankers and banks that has been posing as a legitimate government, and it is not. And this is going to be the topic of today's show, in the sense that we have to break this down at some point, and we're choosing to really delve into the bankruptcy of 1933. And my co-host, Al Whitney, has really been parsing this and pulling this apart. And so, Al, I know that you have gone to great efforts to look at some of the recent statements that Karen Hudis, the former attorney for the World Bank, has been saying. And I'd like you to start that conversation with what you have pulled together that Karen Hudis has stated.
Well, I'll tell you, if people want to get kind of an overview, we're going to share comments that we have in an interview that Karen Hudis did that will confirm an overview that Judge Dale wrote about the Bankruptcy of America -1933. And it is on the Anti-Corruption Society webpage. If you go there and type in the search box, the Bankruptcy of America, you will get to the page, and that is an excerpt from his book where he explained what all took place in relationship to the bankruptcy of 1933. Lots of things changed, and very interesting, as Deborah pointed out, all these significant changes that took place are in our history book, amazingly enough. A lot of people seem to understand that FDR confiscated the people's gold, but they don't really understand what else transpired at that point. And our government was pretty much turned upside down with that event. Make it, a little briefer. The Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private banking cartel, took over the U.S. Treasury, was given control of the Treasury in 1920. They formed the corporation, United States Corporation Company, which they intentionally raided and bankrupted. So by 1933, all that was left for them to confiscate was the people's gold, which they got Roosevelt to do. the World Bank attorney, former World Bank attorney, Karen Hudis, is quite knowledgeable on this. What she's doing right now is she's trying to get someone in the government to accept gold that is being made available to back the U.S. dollar. Well, the U.S. dollar is really the Federal Reserve note, the currency of the private Federal Reserve. But Ms. Hudis is proposing that the Treasury be restored to the corporate government and that the Federal Reserve be shut down. Lots of people are saying that the solution for our country, the most important thing that could happen, is the elimination of the Federal Reserve. And in 1933, the Federal Reserve got the authority to create our currency. It is really their private currency, and everything we're subject to today is the use of their private currency.
Now,
they are not too eager to let this go.
That's exactly right, Al. And I'm just going to interject right now for all of the listeners to understand in depth of, again, what we were not taught in school. I would highly recommend you type in your search bar Eustace Mullins, E-U-S-T-A-C-E, Mullins, M-U-L-L-I-N-S, and listen to the conference he gave on the secrets of the Federal Reserve. Again, that is the secrets of the Federal Reserve. He is a historian. He spent between 40 and 50 years in the Library of Congress researching the Federal Reserve. He also has a book, Secrets of the Federal Reserve, which are downloads, and you can find those quite easily. So I wanted to make certain that the listeners had the opportunity to understand a little bit more about what Judge Dale is talking about, because I know that we really recommend everybody read Judge Dale's book, and it's not only on the Anti-Corruption Society, but you can find it on the homepage of stopthecrime.net, and it's a free download, and the book by Judge Dale is entitled The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America, and also another corresponding paper that he wrote as well is called The Matrix and the U.S. Constitution. So, Al, go ahead, please.
So Karen Hudis got fired and came forward as a whistleblower, and in an interesting interview, and I'm not sure, we're going to, as I said, we're going to play you a clip, and if you go to the website, the Anti-Corruption Society website, you will see one of the lead articles on the homepage is World Bank Attorney Exposes the Bankers and the Bar. And we're going to kind of talk about her expose. There's a video that people can watch there. It's about 15 minutes long, and it's got a link to this original interview that these clips are from. What we did is we took out a small segment, 15 minutes, and today you're going to hear 7 minutes of what was pretty much a 3-hour interview. But for those who are really interested in everything she had to say in that interview, which took place on AIB Radio last October 25th, I suggest that people go there and listen. She does tell the whole story about what happened with her at the World Bank. In addition to telling that story, the host of the AIB radio program, Rod Class, and some of his listeners asked her other questions. And to my knowledge, the revelations she made in that interview, I don't recall, and I've listened to a lot of Karen Hudis interviews and watched a lot of her YouTubes. This may be one of the most important ones she did, because some of these revelations that she made with that group, she has not necessarily talked about on other YouTubes. That's why I think this one's pretty important. She's confirming Judge Dale, basically.
Okay, Al, I think that this is a good opportunity for that clip to be inserted in this radio show now. And that way everyone can listen to it, and then we can follow it up after they hear it. And we're going to be inserting the 6-minute link. Is that correct, Al?
7 minute.
7-minute
audio link.
Okay,
right.
We're going to do that now. We're going to play that now so that everyone can listen to it. And we'll be back in just a moment.
What happened was in 1933, this country was declared in bankruptcy, and that's when you got all these states being incorporated, and that's when you got babies when they were given Social Security numbers and their birth certificates. You see the names are put in capital letters. That's when we lost our courts. Our courts became maritime courts, and what the Federal Reserve banksters were doing was they were making an estimate of how much tax payments over their lifetime those babies were going to be paying, and they estimated for each person it was going to be like $600,000 or $700,000, and they issued bonds. And if you look at your birth certificate and you turn it over, you'll see that there's a number on there. There's a CUSIP number. That's, they would be issuing bonds for your babies, for the future earnings. And when you go into a court, it's no longer a regular court, and you're not given your rights as a citizen. You're treated as if you were a vessel, as if you were a ship under maritime law. I couldn't believe it when I heard about this. I thought, that's impossible. I read it about 3 or 4 times, and from different people, and finally I realized, this is what's what. And when you pay your tax dollars, you're mailing your checks to a separate place. That's to the Federal Reserve System.
There was a comment that was made on one of your sites about the rule of law. What is actually the rule of law? Because our understanding is those who have the gold make the rules.
I'm sitting here smiling. I've been having a discussion with a group that wants to have citizen juries. And what I was saying to them is that, I'm not going to say that they shouldn't do that, but while they're at it, they should be going to the American Bar Association and asking that group what they're doing when they license lawyers. Because one of the things that happened in my case was the lawyers inside the World Bank took whiteout and falsified the documents and used the falsified documents. And that is a violation of the rules of professional conduct. And, it was open and shut. I could show that they had done this. And I went to the D.C. Bar, the Board on Professional Responsibility, and I asked them to discipline those lawyers, and they didn't do that. So the conclusion that Elaine and I have come to is that the licensing of lawyers should be taken away from lawyers. They're just there, helping conceal the fraud of their brethren. And they've lost the right. They're no longer up to the task. So we've got to. I'm very, very impressed at how seriously you all are, at work, and you know more than most of the lawyers. And so you and other people need to go to the American Bar Association and get those people to understand that we have come to a situation of such massive fraud and corruption that the ABA has lost all total credibility, and they should apologize to the American people for what it is that they've been doing, and they should disband. The lawyers should probably all give back their licenses. I mean, the 13th Amendment should be read from, that's the first thing that the kids in the schools need to hear. It's been a terrible scandal.
Let me ask you a question. Now, if somebody was to approach you 10 years ago and bring this up to you, what would have been your first impression?
Before I knew about all of this?
Yes.
My first reaction was that it wouldn't be valid because, one of the questions I didn't answer is, what do I consider to be rule of law? Yeah. And when you've got this secret game going on that nobody knows about, that's not rule of law. If people don't know about it, if the judges are crossing their fingers and putting, yellow fringe on a flag and duping people, and people don't know about it, that's not really rule of law. It couldn't be law. But as I spent more and more time seeing how this was done and why it was done, and this whole big what can you call it? It's a scam. It's a world scam. I was in a way, when I found this out, and I couldn't believe it, and it took me a lot of time. And, I ran into people that were telling me the same things. And finally, I said, well, I don't want to believe it. It goes against my grain. I don't want to believe that all of these lawyers and the American Bar Association are pulling a fast one on everybody like this. But I have no choice. That's the way it is. If that's the way it is, I'd rather admit it, that that's the way it is, than sit there and be a dupe. And I think everybody, and that's why it's going to be so difficult, is to get everybody to understand this, is because it's, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm not intimidated by this kind of, gobbledygook in the language. When somebody comes at me with this kind of, it's all, the language. If you read what Chris Strunk has done to release yourself from this, it's just they did it that way on purpose to make it almost impossible to understand and almost impossible to undo. I mean, it's kind of like you're putting landmines in a field so people can't get through. That's what this is. It's that kind of lawyering. And nothing makes me madder than that kind of lawyering.
Okay, Al, everyone has had an opportunity to hear about this clip that Karen Hudis did and that you put together. So let's talk about this clip.
Well, it was real important because she made some revelations that Judge Dale and many others, including Representative Traficant, have done their best to reveal to the public about what has happened to our government. I like to refer to it as how the thieves stole our government. And she brings out the bankruptcy of 1933, which I'm not sure most attorneys are even aware of. I do not believe it's taught in law school. She makes the point in the confession that our states are corporations. In the very beginning of the clip, people probably heard her say that's when the states were turned into corporations. She said we lost our courts. There's a lot of constitutional lawyers I wish would listen to this, because she says in this that the courts were changed to maritime commercial courts. Maritime equals statutory, one and of the same. So she tells the public that we lost our courts back in 1933. She also reveals that the birth certificates, the hypothecation of the birth certificates took place. The bankers turned each birth certificate in a bond, and they sold the bond. And the child and the child's future earnings became a surety for the bankers. She revealed that way. She also talked about our taxes. We are under the impression that our taxes go to the U.S. Treasury. We've been told that. Everybody thinks that, but it is not true. Many people have revealed that our taxes do not go to the U.S. Treasury. They go to the private Federal Reserve. We are charged taxation for the use of their private currency.
Well, and it's only natural that people would think that it went to the federal, that they wouldn't know it goes to the Federal Reserve, because we get our refund checks back from another agency, not
Correct.
From the Federal Reserve. So it's amazing how they've perpetrated this hoax and created a de facto system and a judiciary system that does not serve us.
Absolutely. And if people want to know more about the IRS, which is another private corporation connected to the Federal Reserve, they can put into their computer a search for 31 question and answers about the Internal Revenue Service. That site was put together by supremelaw.org, and it does an excellent job exposing what the Federal Reserve is and what it is not. And it is not a part of the U.S. Treasury.
Now, would you repeat that? You said to search the 31 questions.
31 questions and answers about the Internal Revenue Service.
Right. Okay.
SupremeLaw.org is the website, and they did an excellent job putting that together. She also revealed, she mentioned the 13th Amendment, and I'm not so sure the listeners are aware of what, she didn't describe it, she just cited it. And many of the listeners are probably not aware that the original 13th Amendment, which was disappeared, prohibited individuals with titles from taking office, being elected into office. And an esquire, which is what attorneys are called, esquire is considered to be a title. So the 13th Amendment, which was disappeared, would have prohibited all these attorneys who are composing all these statutes and making all these changes in our government. It would have prohibited them from holding office. And she said that she recommended that everybody be educated about this and that this amendment be restored. Well, someday, if we can get rid of the national emergency, I would hope that people would understand we have to get attorneys, we have to prohibit them from holding office. Because all they're doing is writing statutes and corporate structures that enslave the population and serve the masters. That's all they've been doing all these many years. They also put us into Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code, I don't believe she used that word, is maritime law, and it is the law of merchants, and it is what's in our court. That started to roll in right after the U.S. Constitution, the original organic Constitution, was put into the dustbin in 1871, and they created anew the Constitution of the United States, all caps, when they created the corporate United States in 1871. From that point forward, and you can verify this and see how that happened in that little booklet on our website, Anti-Corruption Society, called Who is Running America? And that author tracked how the Uniform Commercial Code was brought into our legal system, which controls today, it controls our legal system. Karen Hudis, however, was very clear that the culprit, the enemy of the American people currently, is the bar. It is the lawyers who create all of these traps and all of these contracts, which the people don't understand, what happened to their government. It's all being done by stealth. The population's not aware of it. What they've done is created a legal system completely alien to what we think we've got. And I loved it when she said it's time for the bar to disband.
Well, you know what's extremely also interesting and also, of course, extremely sad for the American people is they really do believe there is a judiciary system that serves them. And so the lawyers are committing, it's beyond treason in the sense that they are fomenting a false reality of our reality by bringing us into this deceptive, predatory, illegal justice system, taking our money, which of course we know goes on to the Federal Reserve, and leaving us in this court system oftentimes for many, many years, believing that we may prevail. Most often we don't. And I know that we've talked about some of the victories that a few people seem to have had. And we believe that that is just a way in which to keep people believing that there is justice, because occasionally they do have to allow a victory. But we're getting ready to head into a break, and we're going to pick this up on the other side of the break. This is Deborah Tavares, Stop the Crime, with my co-host Al Whitney with the Anti-Corruption Society on the Pure Momentum Network. Tune in.
Government is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. Frank Zappa.
Greetings, fellow organic beings on planet Earth. My name is Pamela Tartar. I host Critical Mass on Pure Momentum Network. My awareness tells me humanity is reaching a tipping point. A choice must be made. Either we choose continuing under ever-worsening tyranny, or we stand up in our humanity and create a new world of love, abundance, compassion, empathy, and all the human attributes and features. I invite you to join me as we explore who we are and find tools inside us, enabling us to stand tall and strong against the opposition. Now is the time. Pamela Tartar, Critical Mass.
I want to come back as a virus and kill most of the population.
Prince Philip.
Indeed. Yes.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We have been talking about the bankruptcy of 1933. And Al Whitney with the Anti-Corruption Society has been going over and discussing the YouTube that we played in the first half hour of the program today. And we were talking about how Karen Hudis admits that it's difficult for people to believe that the lawyers and the bar are pulling a fast one on everyone. And that's exactly what's happened. And of course, it's nice to have someone that was in the World Bank as an attorney now coming forth and telling us what their experience is as this information has been revealed to them. Now, I know, Al, we were talking about, do the attorneys in general understand what has occurred? And based on what Judge Dale revealed in his expose, the Matrix and the U.S. Constitution, where he was a sitting judge for 11 or 12 years, and when asked by his brother to help his brother in this IRS matter, that's when Judge Dale plummeted into his reality and became extremely depressed when he discovered what had actually happened to our country and the rule of law. And so I would say it's probably fair to say that in order to incubate as many obedient lawyers that serve the corporate structure, they are not taught. So I'm imagining that this information is going to sound very foreign to them. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, and they've done to the lawyers what they've done to the physicians. Karen Hudis admits that in the interview, both I think the short one and the long one, that it took her 3 different times people came up with the same information. And initially she thought it was incredulous. She's like, well, that couldn't be. Now, she went to Yale, and she, I think, had been in the law for like 30 years. She'd been a lawyer. And when people brought this information to her, she had a very hard time, and admits she had a hard time accepting it. In other interviews that she has done, she has said there are 2 U.S. constitutions. The first one would be the Constitution for the United States with a small u, and the second one would be the Constitution of the United States, all caps, that we talked about, that came to pass with the Act of 1871. So she's also acknowledged that there was an organic constitution and a corporate constitution, which I think, I don't know how many lawyers are listening to her. She seems to be wanting to do her best to get the word out that the system isn't what they've all been taught. But you have to wonder, my gosh, her whole career, she thought the system was one thing and it's been another thing. And obviously Judge Dale says the same thing. So that means that when we're trying to get the word out, help people understand what are our courts, do we have any rights? If so, what are they? All these lawyers are not going to help us. And I'm not entirely sure. Some of them probably understand how the system works. For sure the judges do. Judge Dale says the judges absolutely understand. But the rest of them, we can't go to them for help, folks. They do not understand the system as it is. They're given a version of the system that is not accurate, and somehow they've managed to keep this thing going, even though they don't have the full picture. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. But people have to stop going to lawyers, Deborah. Stop going to bar attorneys for assistance with this system. They are not going to help you. They will take your money, but when you think about it, who licenses? They're not even licensed. The bar attorneys receive a bar card when they pass their test of indoctrination, their bar exam. Then the Supreme Court of each state issues this graduate who passed his exam what is called a bar card. And he can appear in the state courts as long as he has a bar card.
Now, what I thought was so interesting.
They are not licensed with the Secretary of State. It would be nice for people to understand that. They are not licensed with the Secretary of State.
Now, Al, what I found very interesting, and Judge Dale, of course, discusses it in his book, The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America, and he breaks out what the acronym for BAR, B-A-R, means. It's the British Accreditation Registry. But I wanted to also point out in Judge Dale's book on page 103, he says this about our educational system, which of course speaks to the reason that attorneys graduate out of schools of indoctrination, as you just pointed out. And Judge Dale says, we are all forced to submit to a forced education wherein the subject content has been fictionalized and is supervised by the Department of Education. We are periodically tested and graded to ensure that we have been sufficiently indoctrinated with these facts before being graduated. The carrot or rewards used to entice us into memorizing these false facts are words like cum laude, diplomas, intelligence quotients, college entrance exams, stats and rewards like educational scholarships, grants, and the promise of a better job and life. And few ever receive the carrot. So this is extremely important to read and understand. I think Judge Dale does an excellent job with revealing our history that we have been deprived of. And I cannot recommend a more important read for the time that we find ourselves in than The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America by Judge Dale. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree. But we're really up against a mountain to climb here because
yes,
Karen Hudis admitted, and I know others, that they're so indoctrinated. If you would send the Judge Dale book to some attorneys, they would start a couple chapters if they get that far, and then they'd throw it down on the floor and consider it rubbish. I mean,
yes,
she had 3 different individuals approach her with the same information, and maybe that's what it's going to take before she would even consider it. And then when she studied it, she said, well, she didn't want to admit it, but that's how the system works. It's going to be difficult. I don't know. I mean, I've got attorney friends, Deborah. I've got long-standing friends who are attorneys. And I don't think that I've got also long-standing friends who are physicians. I have not had much luck trying to get them to revisit any of the indoctrination that they've been given.
Well, that's absolutely true. I certainly find the same resistance and the same hardened mindset against new information. And that's where all of the brainwashing and mind control and the many years of certainly advanced chemical and biological systems being put upon the global population. I mean, with all the fluoride in the water supplies in various locations and the food additives, the air, water, and food we eat has been weaponized as a form of mind control and brainwashing. It all fits together. In fact, on stopthecrime.net at the top of the homepage, we have a very important document entitled The Aquarius Operations Briefing. And I would recommend everyone take a look at that about the ways in which the population was planned to be mind controlled and indoctrinated and brainwashed. And I think we're most absolutely there. I struggle with the same resistance that I know that you do as well, Al, where people will hear this information and their eyes glaze over. They're just not able to step out of this indoctrination and this mind control they're in.
Well, and the original interview that the link is there on the page, the one that took 2.5, I think almost 3 hours. She gave an interesting kind of dissertation of how she's been trying to reach people with this information about the legal system and about the CUSIP accounts and the birth certificates and the fact our courts are maritime courts and all of that information. And she said initially when she heard it herself, she experienced what could only be called an emotional migraine. And she referred to it as an emotional migraine. Then it was like overload. She got a headache, and she just reached the point where she couldn't hear anymore. I thought that was a pretty good thing of her to share that, because if people take on a lot of this at once, that there is an overload. Because what we talk about many times, Deborah, is a complete shattering of their worldview.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, it literally does. It feels like a rug has been pulled out from underneath you. And everything that you built on top of that rug before it was yanked out is all an illusion and all a lie.
Well, and she went on to say that if you tell people about this and then you give them the correct legal words, and she must be referring to talking to lawyers, she said, and then you give them the correct terminology to describe it, she said it's like they're already down, but you take a frying pan and you hit them over the head. And she said it's absolutely cruel. So on some level, she's kind of recommending that people take this in bit by bit. And I can't think of a better way, Deborah, for an attorney maybe to pick up either of Judge Dale's works and read a little bit every night, take it in piece by piece, and kind of get used to the idea. Because his information and her information is going to leave their worldview in shambles.
Well, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's going to leave everything that they've learned,
Right.
certainly as being misinformation, disinformation. And many attorneys still may have school loans that they have to repay. When you look at their reality being shattered, it's shattering their vocation, because once they understand what has occurred, certainly anyone living and going forward in right conduct would not be able to continue to be part of this predatory, unlawful system, and certainly not in good conscience, at least. And
these attorneys, though. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to an attorney who's, I could contact, maybe I should contact Karen Hudis, because from our group, we've been looking at this for quite a while, at this legal system, and we're not entirely sure that attorneys, if they would let their bar card go. See, they don't have a license, so no one can deprive them of the right to make a living and take their license away because they don't have one. But they could voluntarily let go of their bar card, and I do know some who have. And if they would do that, there would be limitations on what they could do. But Deborah, from what I can tell right now, and maybe any attorney who listens to this interview could contact either you or I. My website for this is No More Corruption at Huawei.com. And tell us what they think about the possibility of them working with us on ways to get remedies in this particular minefield, as she referred to it. All they would do is be giving up their ability to enter a courtroom and represent an individual. I'm not so sure they couldn't, Deborah, look at this and come down and help us. I still think they could.
Well, I'm hopeful that once more and more people understand the reality, that they would band together, because that's really what is going to be necessary for us to get out of this predatory system. I really appreciated the quote that I received from you today, and I thought it was extremely important and very fitting to our conversation right now, wherein Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens said that corporations have no consciences, no beliefs, no feelings, no thoughts, no desires. Goes on to say, corporations help structure and facilitate the activities of human beings, to be sure, and their personhood often serves as a useful legal fiction, but they are not themselves members of we the people, by whom, for, and whom our Constitution was established. And again, this is a quote from the Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, and reminding us that corporations have no consciences, no beliefs, no feelings, no thoughts, no desires. In fact, they're void of recognizing life. And therefore,
I think you've kind of experienced that, and this is not meant to condemn the municipalities or the regional planners or the meetings that you've attended, but you and I have talked about how these meetings are conducted, and you and I have talked about the attitude of those who work for these corporate governments, and they do seem to fit that description, Deborah.
Well, they absolutely do. In fact, just a short while ago, we did an emergency town hall meeting, and that is up on YouTube. It is called Who's Running America? You can just type that into your search engine, Who's Running America, or you can watch it on the homepage of stopthecrime.net. And what Al is talking about is, of course, experiences firsthand at local council meetings. You can go to any corporate meeting. Most of the corporations that have meetings are set up under the Delphi technique, which is a predetermined outcome. You're there just because it's required as part of their corporate structure to create the illusion that public input is needed. I know that this is leaving the Karen Hudis topic a bit, but for a moment, to that direction, we have to speak about the fact that we are all being caught up in doublespeak. And it is something that was literally invented, and you can read a book by William Lutz, L-U-T-Z, William Lutz, Doublespeak. And it's a short book, a quick read, but that really does reveal how language has been changed for us to accept the unacceptable. And, for example, here in Northern California, as part of UN Agenda 21 and the climate action plans that are being launched upon all of us on all of our properties, the water is being restricted. And they're in the process right now in Sacramento of developing groundwater management plans. And how these plans are presented at these water meetings is that this is all voluntary. It's all voluntary, but the groundwater management plans will have monitoring requirements, and they will have enforcement. So it's extremely important for everyone that's listening to listen to the words. Go to your meetings, listen to the words, understand they do not work for you. And go to some of the references that we've talked about in this program and become aware. Our reality, our continuation as we now know it, depends upon how quickly we can all assimilate the unthinkable. And it is unthinkable, and it is shattering, as Karen Hudis said, a headache. Well, I know that, post-traumatic stress syndrome is also associated with starting to learn the depths of reality because we've been programmed. We have been mind controlled. And that's also what Judge Dale tells us in his book. And it's somewhat reassuring to be told that this has happened to all of us. We're all in the same boat. He talks about how Americans have been indoctrinated through expert programming, conditioning, prejudice, and patriotism to treat information like this as being ridiculous, absurd, and untrue. He says, time to grow up, America. Look around you and look at your lives. They have eliminated the family farms, the local stores, placed us into cities, given our industry away to break the unions, issued valueless currency and stolen our gold, raised taxes, involved us in staged wars, begun a mass foreclosure of American homes, and poisoned our air and public water supplies. So this is the level of indoctrination that we're talking about. And Al, I know, again, we experience this when we try to give this information or to put this information out, and you're exactly right. It has to be assimilated bit by bit by bit. It's just too overwhelming.
Well, and another thing she said, which is somewhat hopeful, it didn't happen that way for me, but hopefully it can happen that way for a lot of other people. She is saying that she is hopeful if enough of us get out in front of this, that we've already kind of comprehended it. We've opened up, the secret chest, and we looked at what's in it, and we've managed to get through all of the emotional upheaval that realizing that you've been lied to your entire life, and your mom was lied to, and your grandma was lied to. Once you recover that, those of us who've already been down that path will be a little bit in front of the pack. And her hopes is that those in front are able to ease the others into this reality. I think that's somewhat hopeful. It would have helped me had I known someone who, at the time when I made these discoveries, someone who'd already made the discoveries and adjusted to the idea and the concept that everything that they were taught their whole life is wrong. They were lied to about everything. I think it would have been easier for me had I been able to talk to someone like that. But at the time I figured it out, there was nobody around.
Well, and, that really does leave people isolated and certainly very confused and almost wondering just really what is real anymore when you don't have someone to talk to. And I think that's why shows like this are so exceedingly important. I think that there are now many more people that are becoming aware of reality, maybe not to the extent that some are aware of reality, but certainly, again, everyone knows there's something terribly wrong. Most people just can't put their finger on it, and we've discussed many times in the past, one of the documents that we have on our websites is Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and I would recommend that people read that. Again, read it slowly. It's only a 44-page document, but it's exceedingly important. Also, a companion document to that would be the Iron Mountain Report. That came out in the 60s and was a 2.5-year expert gathering of how to ease the United States out of a state of war into what they considered a state of peace, and it is not what you think. And I believe this to be an extremely important document, again, written and put forth in 1966. When it was released to President Johnson soon after JFK was assassinated, Johnson said this is never to go out to the people. And when it was leaked by a whistleblower, it was considered by the government as a hoax. And so I would really recommend everyone read the report from Iron Mountain. I think you'll understand what Kennedy said only 10 days prior to his assassination when he warned us by saying there's a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that's set to conscript everything, science, political, education, military, etc. And we do have this report from Iron Mountain as a download on the homepage of stopthecrime.net, along with John F. Kennedy's warning to us about a ruthless monolithic conspiracy.
Well, and Karen Hudis also brought out in her interviews that she mentioned the Green-Hilton Agreement, and that JFK was he was prepared and he was moving forward on eliminating the private Federal Reserve and restoring the U.S. Treasury.
Yes, that's absolutely true. In fact, you can read this in the Great American Adventure, Secrets of America. There's some conversation in what Judge Dale talks about with John F. Kennedy as well. But that's absolutely true. And so I think for people to ease slowly into this information is the best approach. I know that I oftentimes think of it in terms of walking up stairs, and you just have to stop at the landing every once in a while and catch a breath before you start taking the next step upward into the information and into the truth. Because we are at a time now where the more people that can and could hopefully become aware of their reality, it would help all of us. I kind of feel, Anita, that we are really all on the Titanic together. There's just different stages of awareness of what the Titanic meant at the time. There were those that were clearly on deck looking at the reality that they had hit that iceberg, while there were still others at various levels of the ship. There were still others that were dancing and partying and drinking. There were still others that were in the cabin asleep. And so we're all on this ship together. And I believe the more that we can bring awareness to our reality, the safer our communities will be as we continue to discover more of what we don't know right now. Because I know that we both realize that every single day we're learning more about what was not revealed to us, and more of the truth, and getting out of the indoctrination more every single day. And I do, it's a struggle to assimilate this information. It most definitely is.
Well, and Judge Dale, in the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit more about the legal process, because Judge Dale, one of the things he's done that I am extremely grateful for, it was his chapter 5 in his book, The Great American Adventure, called The Legal Process. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next hour. He did leave us some important tips as how to navigate this legal structure once we wake up and understand that it's a commercial system, it's a commercial corporate system. And for that, I'm very grateful, Deborah. He's got some great tips.
Well, he does. And
hopefully Karen Hudis will join him at some point.
Well, I agree. In fact, I know people that have actually utilized some of those tips. And as you said, in the next hour, we will talk about some of the legal processes in Judge Dale's book. And again, for those of you that would like to free download of that book, you can do so on either the Anti-Corruption Society or stopthecrime.net on the home page. For anyone that is listening and is not able to download these documents for free, you can contact a print shop that we have set up that, for the cost of printing and shipping, will send you any of the documents you see on the websites. And that phone number is area code 707-586-9558. Once again, area code 707-586-9558. 9558, and that is only if you're not able to download these documents for free on either the Anti-Corruption Society or stopthecrime.net. And I'm looking forward to the next hour. We will be getting into Judge Dale, Chapter 5 of his book, The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America. So I would certainly recommend everyone that's listening promote this radio show and the Pure Momentum Network to all of your friends, have them subscribe to the second hour of the program. We certainly will be giving quite a bit of important details today in that second members subscription hour. So again, go to the Pure Momentum Network and sign on, become a subscriber, and listen to these programs. And I want to thank Al for joining me in the first hour, and we will be joining up here in the second hour. So we're looking forward to continued listenership in the Pure Momentum Network subscribers section. Thank you, everyone.
We invite all our listeners to join us in the members section for the second hour of all our shows. We encourage you to click on the subscribe button, choose a membership type, pay with PayPal, and voila, you're a member. Enjoy all Pure Momentum Network material, the second hour of all talk shows, extra interviews, and all archives.